Hi, my name is Ryan, and I'm one of the developers of SDS-x. SDS-x is designed to be fun and powerful as a drum machine for iOS, and today I'm going to show you how to use it as an audio unit plugin. If you don't know, an audio unit plugin is basically a version of the app that can be loaded inside of another app. The other app is called the host app, and that's what you're seeing here. This app is called AUM, and it's just a really powerful tool for live performance, for recording, and I consider it a must-have for anyone who's interested in iOS music. And what this host app is going to do is going to allow me to load SDSX and other apps, AUV3 plugins, in, and it's going to manage their sound, and I'm going to be able to mix it together and play things together and keep everything in sync. The other plugin I have loaded here is the Audio Kit House Mark 1, and I've got it set so that the keyboard is controlling it, and it's just a really great sounding Rhodes. I mean, there's not much else to say. It's a really great sounding app, and that's another one that I just highly recommend if you're into iOS music. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load SDSX, and I'm going to create kind of a laid-back beat, and I'm going to play the Rhodes to it. So if you're not familiar with AUM, if you want to add a channel, you hit that plus, and you can select if you want audio or Midi. You can even import a file. But I already have a channel ready to go. It's an audio channel. And I'm just going to tap plus and select audio unit extension. I see the list of all the audio units I have. I'm going to scroll down to SDSX. We're going to tap on it to load it. It takes a second. And I'm just going to tap in, and I'll be able to see the view of SDSX. We can adjust it, so give ourselves a little more real estate on the pads. A couple things we want to note about the audio unit version of SDSX. This play button isn't actually enabled. You can't start the sequencer from in the audio unit. You're going to have to use the host transport, and you can kind of see how the sequencer is keeping time there. You also can't adjust the tempo, so if you want to change the tempo of the sequencer, you're going to have to go into your host and set the tempo like that. A few other things won't be available, like you won't be able to use Ableton Link, you won't be able to make in-app purchases, and any Midi is actually going to be managed by the host app. So if you watch the Midi video, it's going to be a little bit different for the audio unit. So why don't we just program a little beat here. I'm going to put the sequencer in program mode and put some kicks in there. Let's get the snare on the 2 and the 4. Can't go wrong with that. And we'll put our hi-hats on the offbeats, and I got the closed hi-hats on the 16th notes. I'm going to add some swing. Give it a little bit of a shuffle feel. Let's see how that sounds. Let's go a little slower. All right, that's nice. Let's bring the low pass down. And maybe kind of saturation. All right. Maybe one thing I'll do is I'll just put the 2 hi-hats in a mute group. So let's go and edit those pads. Throw those in the mute group. Cool. You hear how the open hi-hat kind of cuts off when the yellow one is played. All right, now we can jam. super fun. Let me show you how you can adjust some of the parameters on SDSX using your host app or using another controller. Let's go here to the settings. We can select an external Midi source to send notes to SDSX. So maybe I actually want to use the keyboard to play notes. So I'll just tap that and let's just actually disable it for the Mark I. So actually see, and if you watch the Midi video, you can see that we actually can use those notes now to control the pads. But let's not do that. Instead, let's take a look at some other ways you can control SDSX. If I tap on these little faders up here, that's going to open up the Midi controls for SDSX. Now, the Midi is essentially routed into the host app, and then the host app is going to be responsible for sending it to SDSX. And since we have an audio unit plugin running, we have the benefit of being able to access a few more parameters. So I can see that all 9 pads expose, the sample pitch, sample pan, sample level. You could imagine maybe controlling the sample pitch with an LFO, and you could get some really crazy sounds that way. We could even, modulate maybe the reverb send with an LFO. That might get pretty cool. We have some global settings that are enabled. Any of the effect settings, so like the low pass cutoff. If we want to actually really easily control the low pass cutoff, what we can do is if you tap this guy down here, it kind of shows up as a macro, if you will, up here, and I can just really easily. In fact, let's get the pads up. Okay, maybe the kick isn't the best to show the low pass. All right, so it's really easy to adjust the cutoff. You can always put one of the parameters up there. Let's go back into that setting. We also have the current pattern, so you can use an external source to select your Midi pattern, or your current pattern in the sequencer. And you can also have a couple click settings if you want to adjust the pan or the level. One thing that's important to note is you're going to want to actually select your Midi source right here. So if you don't select that, it might not work, even if you have it enabled in the other area. So just make sure that all your connections are made. You're also going to want to make sure that the Midi send and receive is enabled over here. Right, so we're going to want to have these enabled in order to receive messages or send messages. What else is there to show? We can also use SDSX as a sequencer for another app. So, if I have another drum machine app, what I can do, and I'll just show you on the Rhodes as an example, you'll notice that SDSX shows up as a Midi source. So if I were to select this, and I won't because this is a drum machine and this is a keyboard, this will sound kind of strange, but if I were to select this, any notes or pads that I play in SDSX will be sent, into whatever instrument I've kind of routed those into, and the sequencer will send Midi as well. So we can use the sequencer in SDSX to play other instruments, much like we saw in the Midi tutorial video. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I want to say. I know that there's lots to explore, and this is only one of many host apps that you could run SDSX in. So I just hope that this video is helpful and it'll give you some things to try out. And let's just send ourselves off here with a little music. Thanks for watching.